God does not commission a vessel of salvation for sunny days.
The ark is built, the rain must fall. The vessel is sealed, the flood begins. The divine flood is not approaching, it has already begun.
A terrible storm, and there arose as a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship.
All right, today we're going to try and deconstruct a pretty complex prophecy. Now, our goal here isn't to say it's true or false, but just to get inside its head, to understand its logic. It all centers on the year 2026 and this world-changing event it calls the Demetrian Flood. So let's dive in. So everything really kicks off with this one single powerful statement. The text presents it as a kind of unshakable law. The idea is simple. You don't build an instrument of salvation, an ark, during peaceful times. Its very existence means a catastrophe is on the way. The logic is severe, you know? The moment the rescue boat is finished, that's the final confirmation that the storm is coming. And this is where the urgency really hits. According to this text, the trigger's already been pulled. This metaphorical ark, which by the way it says was built not by some great leader but by a layman, was supposedly finished in 2026. So this isn't some far-off warning. In the world of this prophecy, the countdown is already over.
Okay, before we go any further, we have to get on the same page about one word, flood. To understand any of what comes next, you have to forget about water. The source is super clear on this. This is a flood of exposure, a flood of truth, and a flood of systemic collapse. Let's break down what that actually means.
So what this prophecy does is it basically hijacks the classic flood story and gives it a total reboot. On the left, you've got the story we all know, but on the right, you see the new meaning. So water and rain, that now becomes this unstoppable wave of exposure and truth. Physical drowning becomes systemic collapse. And the great patriarch Noah, he's replaced by this mysterious figure called the layman, an everyday builder with no credentials. Getting this switch is absolutely crucial. And this flood, it's not just coming from one place. The text says it's a perfect storm coming from two directions at the exact same time. First, you have the fountains of the deep breaking open. This is all about bottom-up chaos, our foundational systems, economics, politics, all the institutions we count on just failing. Then, at the same time, the windows of heaven open. This is a top-down flood, an outpouring of undeniable truth that feels a lot like judgment to anyone caught outside.
Okay, so if we're not talking about a literal flood, then who exactly is supposed to drown in all this? Well, the prophecy gets really specific about who gets swept away.
And to get it, you have to understand another key term they use, flesh. And no, they don't mean our bodies. In this prophecy, flesh is all the stuff we humans build to create status. It's our ego, our professional titles, our degrees and credentials, our social standing. It's basically the entire system of hierarchy and expertise that our world runs on. And that brings us to the casualties. According to the source, the very people who are at the top of our current world, the academics, the politicians, the celebrities, the experts, they're the ones who are most in danger. And why? Because their authority, their whole identity, is built on that system of flesh. And this flood of new reality, it just washes all of that away, making their credentials totally worthless.
So what about the layman builder? Why do they make it through?
Well, according to the text, it's because their foundation isn't built on the flesh of status or degrees. It says they built on something called the spirit of the pattern, a different kind of logic that is supposedly immune to the flood itself.
All right, so that's the chaos happening on the outside. But what's it actually like for the people inside the ark? Let me tell you, it's not some relaxing cruise. The text describes it as a radical, intense pressure test.
This slide really gets to the heart of the mindset inside. The ark is described as having just one window, and it's on the roof, pointing up. The whole point is, they're not supposed to be looking out at the chaos and destruction of the world. Their focus has to be completely upward, toward what the text calls the source. It's a state of total isolation from all the external noise. And this whole ordeal, this time of intense pressure, has a name: the seepage check. It's a powerful image, right? The idea is that the world collapsing is pushing on the ark from every single side. The text says every plank, which means every person and every belief they hold is being tested to its absolute limit to see if the chaos can seep in and cause a crack. But here's the wild part.
The central promise of this whole thing for those inside, the prophecy says that this external pressure, the very same force that is crushing the old world, it does the complete opposite to the Ark. It doesn't break it. It actually forces all the joints together, sealing the whole thing tighter. And that brings us to maybe the most mind-bending idea in this entire prophecy. Seriously, the flood isn't just something you have to survive. The flood is the very thing that saves you. The chaos is actually the elevator. Just look at this contrast. You've got the exact same event, this flood of collapse, but it has two totally opposite effects. For the rest of the world, it's a crushing pressure that buries everything. But for the Ark, that very same pressure is what provides the upward lift, allowing it to rise above it all and land on high ground. This right here, this is the engine of the whole prophecy. It's a direct one-to-one relationship. The more chaos there is out there, the more systems collapse, the higher the floodwaters get. And the higher the water gets, the higher the Ark is lifted. Its survival, its elevation, is literally powered by the world's destruction. So when you boil it all down, what's the final verdict from the text on this whole flood phase? What's the takeaway from this period of massive change? The text really wraps it up with these three things. First, the event. It's the total collapse of the old world's idea of success and authority. Second, the action. For the community inside, it's this lockdown of faith, where they just look up and hold on. And finally, the result. The layman builder, the one with no credentials, is proven right. Not by arguing, but just by the fact that the thing they built is still floating. And that's really where the prophecy leaves us. It's not giving answers, so much as painting a picture of one world ending and another one beginning, all through these powerful metaphors. And it leaves us with a really tough question to chew on. When the systems we all rely on start to crack, where do you draw the line between a wild prophecy and just a cold, hard look at reality?
They are drowning in confusion because their textbooks did not predict this reality. Credentials have become heavy weights. The layman survives by building on instinct, not academia. The Ark endures the flood because it shares the same divine logic.
The truth of collapse.
Outside the Ark, truth is a force of judgment, destructive and overwhelming. The experience inside is radical pressure testing. It is not comfortable, but it is necessary. Pressure seals the joints. The Ark, built by hands of rest, will not leak. External chaos only tightens the community.